The mining colony on Kepler 442b was supposed to be humanity's first major success beyond the solar system. Captain Sarah Chen had volunteered for the 3-year assignment, thinking it would be routine extraction work in a peaceful sector of the galaxy. She was wrong. The attack came without warning during the night shift. Sarah was reviewing mineral reports when the entire facility shook violently. Emergency lights bathed everything in red as alarms screamed through the corridors. Through the reinforced windows of the command center, she watched in horror as massive ships descended from the dark sky like metallic vultures. The Korthak had found them. Sarah had heard stories about the warrior race that dominated this region of space. They were 7 feet tall, covered in chitinous armor that grew from their own bodies and possessed strength that could crush human bones like twigs. Worse yet, they viewed other species as either slaves or entertainment for their gladiatorial combat rings. All personnel to emergency bunkers, Sarah shouted into the comm system as explosions rocked the facility. Through the chaos, she could see her people running in panic. These were miners and engineers, not soldiers. They had no chance against professional warriors. The main door to the command center exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris, a massive figure emerged. The Korthak warrior stood nearly 8 feet tall, his natural armor gleaming black with purple highlights. Multiple eyes glowed yellow in the darkness, and his forearms ended in claws that could tear through steel. This was clearly their leader, based on the intricate scarring patterns that covered his visible flesh. Sarah drew her sidearm, knowing it was useless against Korthak armor. The warrior looked at her with what might have been amusement. When he spoke, his voice rumbled like distant thunder, translated by the universal communicator in her ear. "You are the leader of this pathetic colony? I am Captain Sarah Chen, commander of this facility," she replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. "What do you want?" The warrior's multiple eyes studied her intently. "I am War Commander Zefak of the Blood Tide clan. Your species has trespassed in our territory. The penalty is death or slavery. We filed proper territorial claims with the Galactic Council. This system was listed as unoccupied." Zefak's mandibles clicked in what Sarah realized was laughter. "Your council means nothing here, human. This is Korthak space and has been for 1,000 years. Your people will serve as gladiators in our arenas, or they will feed our war beasts." Sarah's mind raced. 300 innocent people depended on her decision. She had read every file about the Korthak during the journey here, looking for any advantage. One detail suddenly surfaced from her memory. "I challenge you to single combat," she said. The command center fell silent except for the distant sounds of battle. Zefak's eyes narrowed to glowing slits. "You dare invoke the blood right? Your own laws state that a challenged leader must face single combat if invoked properly. If I win, my people go free. If you win, you get what you would have taken anyway." Zefak studied her for a long moment. Sarah could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. She was betting everything on cultural protocols that might have changed since the last intelligence reports. "You understand the terms, human? This is a fight to the death. There is no surrender, no mercy. The victor claims the blood of the defeated." "I understand." "And you understand that you have no chance? I have killed over 200 warriors in ritual combat. My claws have tasted the blood of 12 different species." Sarah lifted her chin defiantly. "Then you should have no problem with one more." Something flickered in Zefak's multiple eyes. Respect, perhaps, or simple curiosity about this small human's courage. He reached into a pouch on his belt and withdrew a curved blade that gleamed with an inner light. "Very well. We will fight in the traditional manner." He tossed the weapon to her feet. "Blade against claw, warrior against warrior. If you somehow survive long enough to draw my blood, you will have earned something unprecedented." Sarah picked up the alien blade. It was perfectly balanced and felt warm in her grip, as if it were alive. "And what's that?" "My respect, human, and perhaps something more valuable than you can imagine." The other Korthak warriors had entered the command center and formed a circle. They began a low, rhythmic chanting that seemed to vibrate through the floor. Zefak removed his ceremonial armor, revealing scarred flesh marked with ritual tattoos that told the story of his victories. "What is your name, brave fool?" "Sarah Chen." "Sarah Chen," he repeated, testing the sounds. "I will remember you when this is over. Your courage deserves to be spoken of in the warrior halls." Sarah had trained in martial arts since childhood and maintained combat certification as part of her military service, but she knew this was hopeless. Zefak was faster, stronger, and had natural weapons that could cut through steel. Her only advantages were speed and unpredictability. The chanting stopped. In the sudden silence, Zefak raised his forearms and roared a challenge that shook the walls. Sarah gripped the blade and tried to remember everything she had ever learned about fighting. Begin. Zefak lunged forward with impossible speed. Sarah barely dodged his first swipe, rolling to the side as claws raked the air where her head had been. She came up in a crouch and slashed with the alien blade, managing to score a shallow cut across his thigh before dancing back out of range. Zefak looked down at the thin line of purple blood with genuine surprise. First blood to the human, impressive, but Sarah knew she couldn't maintain this pace. Zefak was toying with her, testing her skills before finishing the fight. She needed to do something desperate and unexpected. The war commander attacked again, all four arms moving in a deadly pattern that would have shredded a normal opponent. Sarah threw herself forward instead of back, sliding between his legs and slashing upward with both hands on the blade's grip. The weapon bit deep into Zefak's side and he roared in pain and surprise. Purple blood splattered the floor as he spun to face her, genuine fury in his glowing eyes. "You fight without honor. I fight to win," Sarah panted, backing away from his renewed assault. For the first time since the battle began, she saw something new in the alien warrior's expression. It wasn't anger or contempt, but recognition, the look of one warrior acknowledging another. The medical bay aboard Zefak's flagship was unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. Alien technologies hummed around her as robotic arms precise as surgeons repaired her damaged ribs and internal bleeding. The Korthak had developed healing methods that seemed almost magical compared to human medicine. "The biogel will accelerate your natural healing by a factor of 20, explained Valrak. Zefak's former second commander. The massive warrior stood nearly as tall as his predecessor, but his armor bore silver markings instead of gold. "You will be combat ready within 2 cycles. Sarah watched the green substance sealing her wounds through the transparent treatment pod. 2 cycles? Approximately 16 of your human hours. The heart has taught you our time measurements, has it not? Indeed it had. The crystalline device now hung around her neck on a chain of alien metal, constantly feeding her information about Korthak culture, technology, and politics. It was like having a team of advisors whispering in her mind at all times. "Valrak, I need to understand something. Why haven't any of the warriors challenged my authority? Surely some of them resent taking orders from a human." The second commander's mandibles clicked in what Sarah now recognized as thoughtful consideration. 3 reasons, War Commander. First, the blood pact is sacred law. To challenge it would bring dishonor to their bloodlines for 7 generations. Second, you killed Zefak in fair combat, which few thought possible. That alone earned their respect. And the third reason? You are showing wisdom by asking questions instead of pretending to know everything. Zefak chose his successor well. As the healing process continued, Sarah studied the tactical displays that surrounded her treatment pod. The heart was feeding her an overview of blood-tied territory, and what she saw was staggering. 12 star systems under her control, each one contributing massive wealth to the clan's treasury. Mining operations, military contracts with smaller species, exclusive trading rights. The scope was overwhelming. Valrak, how many ships do we command? 237 combat vessels ranging from patrol craft to dreadnoughts, plus support ships, transport vessels, and mining platforms. In total, nearly 400 ships. Sarah felt dizzy, and not from her injuries. She commanded a fleet larger than most human naval forces combined. And crew? Approximately 80,000 Korthak warriors, plus another 60,000 support personnel from allied species. The numbers were staggering. She had gone from commanding a mining colony of 300 to leading a military force that could challenge small governments. The responsibility was terrifying. "War Commander," Valrak continued, "there is something you must know. Word of Zefak's death has already spread to our enemies. The hegemony of Talroth has been waiting for an opportunity to test our strength. They will likely move against our outer territories within days. Tell me about them." The tactical display shifted to show a different region of space, marked in hostile red. The Talroth are an ancient species that considers itself the rightful ruler of this entire sector. They have been building their forces for decades, waiting for a sign of weakness. A new, untested war commander is exactly what they have been hoping for. Sarah absorbed this information while the healing process completed. Through the heart's knowledge, She could see the strategic importance of various systems and the likely targets for a Talroth assault. Their most probable move would be against the outer mining colonies, testing her response time and tactical abilities. How long before they attack? Intelligence suggests they are already mobilizing their main fleet. Perhaps 3 cycles before they reach our borders. Sarah stepped out of the treatment pod, surprised by how completely healed she felt. The biogel had not only repaired her injuries but seemed to have enhanced her physical capabilities. She felt stronger and more alert than ever before. "Assemble the ship commanders for a war council," she ordered. "I want to hear all tactical options." "Yes, War Commander." An hour later, Sarah stood before a holographic display showing 30 of her most senior captains. They appeared as 3-dimensional projections from ships scattered across the clan's territory, their various scars and armor markings telling the stories of countless battles. "Honored warriors," she began, speaking in fluent Korthak. "Our enemies believe that Zephak's death has left us vulnerable. They are about to learn how wrong they are." Rumbles of approval echoed from the assembled commanders. Sarah could sense their eagerness for battle, but also their uncertainty about her leadership abilities. She would have to prove herself quickly. "Captain Morgak, what is the status of our border patrols?" The grizzled veteran activated his own tactical display. "War Commander, we have detected massive fleet movements in Talroth space. At least 60 ships, including 4 heavy cruisers. They are positioning for an assault on the Kepler system." Sarah studied the star chart, her enhanced mind processing tactical possibilities with frightening speed. The heart was feeding her battle strategies developed over centuries of warfare, showing her options that would never have occurred to her human training. "They expect us to defend," she mused. "Pull our forces back to protect our valuable systems while they pick off our outer territories one by one." "That would be the traditional response," agreed Valrak. Zephak always preferred defensive strategies, wearing down attackers until they overextended themselves. Sarah smiled, and several of the veteran commanders straightened in recognition of something dangerous in her expression. "Then they won't expect an immediate counterattack. Captain Vorlak, how quickly can you move your squadron to the Kepler system?" "War Commander, that system is poorly defended. If we move my ships there, we leave the core systems vulnerable. I'm not asking you to defend Kepler. I'm asking you to use it as bait." Sarah manipulated the holographic display, showing troop movements that made several commanders gasp. "The Talroth want to test our strength? Let's give them a test they'll never forget." Her plan was audacious to the point of seeming suicidal. Instead of defending their territory, she proposed to split their fleet into 3 groups. One would appear to defend Kepler while actually preparing a trap. The second would secretly position itself for a strike at the Talroth home system. The third would remain hidden in reserve, ready to exploit whatever opportunities arose. "War Commander," Captain Draketh spoke carefully, "such a strategy risks everything on a single battle. If we fail, we die as warriors," Sarah replied firmly. "But if we succeed, we will crush the Talroth so completely that no one will dare challenge us for a generation." The assembled commanders exchanged glances, their expressions mixing admiration with concern. This new war commander was definitely not following traditional Korthak tactics. "I know this is different from how Zephak would have handled the situation," Sarah continued. "But I am not Zephak. I am something new, and our enemies are about to discover what that means." Valrak stepped forward. "The plan has merit, War Commander. Bold action might indeed catch them off guard. But the timing must be perfect. Then we better make sure it is." Sarah looked around the circle of hardened warriors, seeing the moment when their uncertainty transformed into excitement. "Gentlemen, let's show the galaxy what happens when you threaten the Bloodtide clan." The battle began exactly as Sarah had predicted. The Talroth fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system with overwhelming force, confident they were facing a small defensive garrison. What they found instead was Captain Vorlak's squadron apparently in full retreat, transmitting desperate requests for reinforcements. Sarah watched the tactical display from the bridge of her flagship, the massive dreadnought that had been Zephak's pride. Around her, Korthak warriors monitored communications and weapon systems with professional efficiency. To an outside observer, she might have seemed calm, but internally she was processing dozens of variables through the enhanced strategic thinking the heart provided. The Talroth are taking the bait, reported Valrak from his position at the sensor station. Their main force is pursuing Vorlak toward the mining platform just as planned. And our hidden squadrons? In position. Captain Thakar reports ready to strike their rear flank. Captain Zareth confirms the home system assault force is prepared. Sarah nodded, watching enemy ships spread out in pursuit formation. The Talroth were making exactly the mistake she had hoped for, dividing their forces to ensure no escape routes remained open. In doing so, they had exposed themselves to the kind of coordinated attack that could shatter their entire fleet. Signal Vorlak to begin Phase 2. On the display, the retreating Korthak ships suddenly reversed course and opened fire with everything they had. Simultaneously, Captain Thakar's hidden squadron emerged from behind a small moon, catching the Talroth rear guard completely off guard. The enemy formation dissolved into chaos as ships scattered to avoid the devastating crossfire. Enemy command ship is attempting to regroup their forces, Valrak observed. Should we move to engage? Not yet. Let them think they're regaining control. Sarah studied the tactical situation with the cold calculation that the heart had taught her. What's the status of the home system strike? Captain Zirath reports successful infiltration of Talroth space. Their defense platforms have been neutralized, and the orbital shipyards are under attack. This was the true genius of Sarah's strategy. While the Talroth fleet was engaged in what they thought was a minor border skirmish, their entire industrial base was being systematically destroyed. Even if they won this battle, they would lack the infrastructure to build replacement ships. War Commander, the communications officer announced, "We are receiving a transmission from the Talroth command ship. They are requesting parley." Sarah almost smiled. "Put them through." The main display shifted to show a reptilian alien with scales that shifted color according to his emotional state. Currently, they were a deep red that indicated extreme agitation. When he spoke, his voice carried the arrogance typical of his species. "I am Fleet Admiral Korath of the Talroth hegemony. You will cease this unprovoked attack immediately and surrender your forces, or we will destroy every ship you have." "I am War Commander Sarah Chen of the Blood Tide clan," she replied calmly. "And you seem to be confused about who is surrendering to whom." Korath's scales shifted to purple with surprise. "A human? Impossible. The Blood Tide is led by Korthak warriors. Was led by Korthak warriors. I killed your predecessor in honorable combat and claimed leadership by right of conquest. Now I'm about to do the same to your fleet." The alien's scales flickered through several colors as he processed this information. "You expect me to believe that a primitive human defeated War Commander Zefak? I don't expect you to believe anything. I expect you to die with whatever honor your species possesses." Sarah gestured to Valrak. "Signal all units to commence final assault." The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for decades to come. Sarah's three-pronged attack created a tactical masterpiece that trapped the entire Talroth fleet in a killing field with no escape routes. Her ships moved with precision that seemed almost choreographed, each squadron supporting the others in a dance of destruction that left no room for enemy maneuvering. The heart fed her tactical insights faster than any organic brain could process them, but Sarah realized that her human intuition was adding something unique to the mix. Where Korthak's strategy relied on overwhelming force and direct assault, she was introducing elements of deception and misdirection that confused enemies accustomed to straightforward warfare. "Enemy flagship is attempting to break through our perimeter," Valrak reported. "They're heading for the hyperspace exit point." "Let them think they might escape," Sarah ordered. "Wait until they're fully committed, then cut them off." The Talroth command ship accelerated desperately toward what appeared to be a gap in the Korthak formation. At the last moment, Sarah's reserve squadron materialized directly in their path, while other ships closed the trap behind them. Admiral Korath's vessel found itself surrounded by enough firepower to level a small city. "Admiral," Sarah broadcasted on an open channel, "you have fought with courage, but the battle is over. Surrender now and your surviving crews will be treated with honor." Korath appeared on screen again, his scales now a defeated gray. "What are your terms?" "Complete withdrawal from all disputed territories, reparations for the cost of this battle, and formal recognition of Blood Tide sovereignty over this entire sector." "And if I refuse?" Sarah's expression became ice cold. "Then you die here and I negotiate with whoever replaces you." "The terms will be less generous." The Talroth admiral looked around his bridge at the damage and casualties his pride had cost. Finally, his scales shifted to the blue of acceptance. I agree to your terms, War Commander Chen. Wise choice. You have one standard day to begin your withdrawal. As the defeated Talroth fleet limped away from the battlefield, Sarah's commanders gathered virtually to witness something unprecedented in their military history. They had just won a complete victory against a numerically superior enemy, with minimal losses to their own forces. War Commander, Captain Vorlak reported, final tally shows 17 enemy ships destroyed, 23 disabled, and the remainder in full retreat. Our losses are negligible. Casualties, 47 killed, 112 wounded. By any measure, this was a stunning success. Sarah felt the weight of those 47 deaths, but she also understood what this victory meant. Word would spread throughout the galaxy that the Bloodtide clan had a new leader, who combined Korthak military might with human tactical innovation. That reputation would prevent far more conflicts than it caused. Valrak, what's the status of the home system strike? Captain Zarath reports complete success. The Talroth shipyards have been destroyed, along with approximately 60 vessels under construction. Their military production capacity has been reduced by 70%. The tactical implications were staggering. The Talroth hegemony had just lost not only a fleet battle but their ability to rebuild their forces. It would take them decades to recover, assuming they could maintain political stability after such a devastating defeat. Begin salvage operations on the disabled ships, Sarah ordered. Any useful technology gets analyzed and integrated into our systems. As for prisoners, War Commander, Valrak prompted when she paused, release them. Let them return home with stories of how they were defeated. Fear is often more valuable than dead enemies. Around the bridge, her officers exchanged approving glances. This new war commander understood the psychological aspects of warfare as well as the tactical ones. By showing mercy to defeated foes, she was building a reputation for honor that would serve them well in future negotiations. Signal the fleet to return to base, Sarah commanded. We have a victory to celebrate and a territory to properly secure. As her ships began forming up for the journey home, Sarah realized that she had just crossed a threshold. She was no longer a human pretending to be a Korthak war commander. She had become something entirely new, a hybrid leader who could think like both species and fight better than either. The victory celebration on the clan homeworld of Korthak Prime was unlike anything Sarah had ever experienced. Thousands of warriors filled the great ceremonial halls, their voices raised in ancient battle songs that made the stone walls tremble. The air was thick with the smoke of ritual fires and the scent of fermented beverages that could probably dissolve human stomach lining. Sarah stood on the elevated platform reserved for the war commander, wearing ceremonial armor crafted specifically for her human physiology. The metalwork was exquisite, incorporating both traditional Korthak designs and subtle human elements that somehow enhanced rather than diminished its alien beauty. The heart of the clan hung prominently at her throat, its crystalline structure pulsing in rhythm with the celebratory chants. War Commander. Valrak approached with a data pad in his massive hands. The tribute shipments have begun arriving from our vassal systems. The victory over the Talroth has convinced several previously neutral species to seek alliance agreements. Sarah accepted the pad and scrolled through the numbers. Even after months of adjusting to her new reality, the wealth flowing through clan territory still seemed impossible. Individual transactions, worth more than entire human colony budgets, were routine business. The Zilithian trade. Consortium is offering exclusive mining rights to their asteroid belt in exchange for protection, she noted. That's a significant development. Indeed, the Zilithians have remained neutral for centuries. If they are willing to ally with us, it sends a message to other species that the Bloodtide clan is still powerful under your leadership. More than powerful, Sarah reflected. In the 6 months since her victory over the Talroth, the clan's influence had expanded dramatically. Her unconventional tactics had not only defeated enemies but impressed potential allies who recognized the value of innovation in warfare. Valrak, I need to discuss something with you privately. The second commander gestured toward a side chamber, and they withdrew from the celebration. Once the heavy doors closed behind them, Sarah activated a privacy field that would prevent eavesdropping. I've been thinking about our long-term strategic position, she began. The clan is stronger now than it's been in decades, but I'm concerned about sustainability. Explain. Sarah called up a holographic display showing their current territorial map. We control 12 star systems directly, with defense agreements covering 8 more. Our fleet has grown to over 300 ships. By any measure, we're one of the most powerful military forces in this sector. This concerns you? It should concern both of us. History shows that empires this size attract attention from much larger powers. The Galactic Federation has been monitoring our expansion. The Zephyrian Empire considers us a potential threat. Eventually, someone is going to decide we've grown too big to ignore. Valrak's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. You believe we should limit our expansion? I believe we should be smarter about it. Instead of continuing to grow through conquest, we should focus on building economic and technological advantages that make us too valuable to attack. This was the fundamental difference between human and Korthak strategic thinking. Where the warrior species saw strength in terms of ships and weapons, Sarah understood that true power came from making yourself indispensable to others. The heart shows me battle strategies going back 1,000 years, she continued, but most of them assume your enemies will fight fair. Humans learned long ago that the most effective way to defeat a stronger opponent is to change the rules of engagement entirely. What do you propose? Sarah manipulated the holographic display to show economic data rather than military deployments. Look at our current income streams. 70% comes from protection services and tribute payments. Only 30% comes from actual productive enterprise. That ratio makes us vulnerable to economic warfare. I do not understand. If our enemies can't defeat us militarily, they might try to turn our clients against us economically, offer better trade deals, undercut our prices, provide alternative security arrangements. We could lose half our income without firing a shot. The concept was clearly new to Valrak, but Sarah could see him processing the implications. Korthak culture had always focused on direct confrontation, but their new war commander was introducing them to more subtle forms of conflict. What you suggest sounds like merchant thinking, Valrak said carefully, clearly trying not to offend. Sarah laughed. Exactly. And that's why it will work. Our enemies expect us to think like warriors, not like business partners. What if we became the most profitable ally anyone could have, instead of just the most dangerous enemy? She expanded the display to show detailed economic projections. I've been working with the heart to model alternative development strategies. Instead of demanding tribute, we offer exclusive trade partnerships. Instead of protection rackets, we provide genuine security services at competitive rates. Instead of conquering new territories, we invest in them. The clan would never accept such peaceful methods. They would if those methods made them richer than conquest ever could. Sarah highlighted specific numbers that made Valrak's eyes widen. According to these projections, we could triple our current income within 5 years by transitioning to a partnership-based model. Triple? Conservative estimate. And that's just the beginning. Once we establish ourselves as the premier military contractor in this sector, we can expand into other services. Technology transfer, infrastructure development, even diplomatic mediation. The possibilities are endless. Valrak studied the projections for several minutes, his massive frame surprisingly still as he absorbed the complex economic data. Finally, he looked up at Sarah with something approaching awe. You would transform the Bloodtide clan from warriors into, what exactly? Into something new. A military-industrial corporation that happens to have the best fleet in the galaxy. We keep the strength that makes us respected, but we add economic incentives that make us indispensable. And our warrior traditions become our greatest assets. Korthak honor and military excellence are our brand. Clients will pay premium prices for security services provided by the legendary Bloodtide clan. Our reputation for never breaking a contract or abandoning an ally becomes worth more than any individual battle victory. A soft chime interrupted their discussion, and Sarah's personal communicator activated. The image of Captain Thakar appeared in the air between them, his scarred features creased with urgency. War Commander, we have a situation developing at the edge of our territory. Long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet approaching from the direction of Federation space. Sarah felt her enhanced reflexes kick in, tactical possibilities flowing through her mind at superhuman speed. How massive? Over 400 ships, including at least 12 dreadnoughts. This is not a routine patrol or diplomatic mission. Someone is coming to fight. Time to intercept? 18 hours at current speed. War Commander. This force is larger than anything we've faced before. If this is the Federation making a preemptive strike, Sarah's mind raced through options, but one possibility stood out with crystalline clarity. Captain, are you certain about the fleet composition? 12 dreadnoughts specifically? Confirmed. Why do you ask? Because the Federation only has 8 dreadnoughts in active service. Which means this isn't a Federation fleet at all. She looked at Valrak, seeing understanding dawn in his multiple eyes. Someone is using Federation ship signatures to mask their true identity. The Zephyrian Empire, Valrak growled. They have been building ships based on stolen Federation designs. This must be their response to our recent victories. Sarah nodded grimly. The Zephyrians were one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, with resources that dwarfed even the expanded Bloodtide clan. If they had decided to eliminate the Korthak as a potential threat, this battle would make the Talroth conflict look like a training exercise. Captain Thakar, recall all patrol squadrons immediately. I want every ship we have ready for combat within 12 hours. Understood, War Commander. Should I also send word to our allied systems? Sarah considered this carefully. Calling in their allies would increase their military strength, but it would also reveal the full extent of their alliance network to Zephyrian intelligence. That information could be used against them in future conflicts. Negative. This needs to look like an internal clan matter. If word spreads that we required outside help to defend ourselves, it undermines everything we've built. After Thakar's image faded, Sarah turned back to Valrak. It looks like our discussion about peaceful expansion will have to wait. Right now, we need to focus on survival. The Zephyrians have never been defeated in open battle, Valrak observed. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours, and their experience in large-scale warfare is unmatched. Then we won't fight them in open battle, Sarah replied with a smile that would have made Zefak proud. We'll fight them on our terms using our advantages. They expect to face traditional Korthak tactics, but they're about to discover that I've been making some modifications to our standard playbook. She activated the chamber's communication system and began issuing rapid-fire orders to fleet commanders throughout their territory. What she was planning wooed trust in her. The Zephyrian fleet emerged from hyperspace like a force of nature, their massive ships gleaming with the distinctive blue-white hulls that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. Admiral Korvash, commanding from the super dreadnought Eternal Glory, surveyed the tactical display with satisfaction. Intelligence reports suggested the Korthak could field perhaps 200 ships at most. His force of 430 vessels would crush them through sheer overwhelming firepower. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, we are detecting minimal defensive formations in the outer system. It appears the Bloodtide clan is attempting to concentrate their forces near their homeworld. Predictable, Korvash mused. The Korthak had always been straightforward in their military thinking. They would gather their ships into a defensive formation and try to make the attackers pay a heavy price for victory. It was an honorable strategy, but ultimately futile against superior numbers and technology. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. The Korthak War Commander wishes to speak with you. Korvash's antennae twitched with amusement. Put them through. I am curious to hear what they think they can accomplish with words. The main display activated to show a figure that made Korvash's secondary hearts skip a beat. Instead of the expected Korthak warrior, he found himself looking at a human female wearing ceremonial armor that somehow managed to be both alien and elegant. I am War Commander Sarah Chen of the Bloodtide clan, the human said calmly. You are trespassing in sovereign territory. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Korvash recovered from his surprise quickly. I am Admiral Korvash of the Zephyrian Third Fleet. You will surrender your forces unconditionally and submit to imperial justice for your crimes against galactic peace. What crimes? Aggressive expansion, unprovoked attacks on peaceful civilizations, the disruption of established trade routes. The Zephyrian Empire will not tolerate such behavior from primitive species. Sarah's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes made Korvash suddenly uncertain. Admiral, you seem to be operating under several false assumptions. First, all our territorial expansion has been through legal conquest or voluntary alliance. Second, we have only attacked those who attacked us first. Third, our trade activities have actually increased prosperity throughout this sector. Your justifications are irrelevant. The Empire has decided that your clan poses a threat to galactic stability. You will be eliminated. No, Sarah replied simply. We won't. Before Corvash could respond, his sensors began screaming warnings. The minimal defensive formations they had detected were suddenly revealed as decoys, holographic projections hiding the true positions of Korthak ships. Worse yet, the clan fleet wasn't concentrated near the homeworld at all. They were spread throughout the system in carefully concealed positions, and they were already moving to surround his force. Impossible. Corvash breathed. How did they hide so many ships from our sensors? His tactical officer was frantically trying to get accurate readings. Admiral, they're using some kind of adaptive camouflage technology. Our sensors were reading asteroid fields and debris clouds, but they were actually ship formations. On the display, the human war commander smiled with predatory satisfaction. You wanted to eliminate a primitive species, Admiral. Unfortunately for you, I'm not particularly primitive, and neither are my people anymore. The battle that followed would revolutionize military thinking throughout the galaxy. Sarah had spent months studying Zephyrian tactics through captured databases and intelligence reports, identifying their strengths and weaknesses with the analytical precision the heart provided. What she discovered was that their overwhelming technological superiority had made them complacent. They relied on conventional strategies because they had never needed to innovate. The Korthak fleet attacked from 12 different directions simultaneously, using hit-and-run tactics that prevented the Zephyrians from bringing their superior firepower to bear effectively. Small, fast ships darted in to deliver devastating strikes against critical systems, then vanished into the system's asteroid field before retaliation could reach them. They're targeting our sensor arrays specifically. Corvash's tactical officer reported as another wave of attackers melted away into the cosmic debris. Every strike is precisely calculated to degrade our detection capabilities. Sarah had learned from her study of human military history that superior forces could be defeated through what ancient generals called death by 1,000 cuts. Instead of confronting the Zephyrian fleet directly, she was systematically dismantling their ability to coordinate and respond. Admiral, the communications officer called out, we're losing contact with ships throughout the formation. Some kind of electromagnetic interference is disrupting our command networks. Corvash stared at the tactical display in growing horror. His massive fleet was being picked apart like prey by predators that struck without warning and vanished before counterattacks could be organized. Worse yet, he was starting to lose track of how many ships he had left. The interference was so effective that he couldn't even get accurate casualty reports. War Commander Chen, he transmitted on an open channel, this is barbaric. Stand and fight with honor. Sarah's reply came back immediately. Honor doesn't resurrect the dead, Admiral. If you want a fair fight, you should have brought a fair-sized fleet. The psychological warfare was as devastating as the physical attacks. Corvash's crews could see that they were being outmaneuvered by an enemy they couldn't effectively target, but they had no idea how badly the battle was going overall. Panic began spreading through the Zephyrian formation as individual ship commanders started making independent decisions instead of waiting for orders that might never come. Admiral, the tactical officer's voice was approaching panic. The enemy is using our own formation against us. They're herding damaged ships into positions where our own vessels can't provide covering fire without risking friendly fire. Incidents. Sarah had studied every major Zephyrian battle for the past century, learning their standard formations and tactical preferences. She was exploiting their predictability, using their own doctrine to trap them in situations where their superior numbers became a liability rather than an advantage. Begin emergency withdrawal, Corvash ordered. Signal all ships to break formation and retreat to the hyperspace exit point. But even retreat proved impossible to coordinate effectively. The electromagnetic interference prevented proper communication, while the asteroid field limited the formation changes necessary for an organized withdrawal. Ships began fleeing individually, abandoning their positions in a growing cascade of military collapse. Admiral, Sarah's voice came over the communication system one final time. You have two options: surrender your remaining forces and accept prisoner status, or continue this battle until every ship in your fleet is destroyed. Choose wisely. Corvash looked around his bridge at the defeated faces of his crew. His mighty fleet had been reduced to fewer than 200 operational ships, most of them damaged and scattered throughout the system. The humans and their Korthak allies had accomplished something that military theorists had claimed was impossible. They had decisively defeated a numerically and technologically superior force through pure tactical innovation. Korvash's voice caught as he struggled with the enormity of his failure. I surrender. Wise choice. Have your ships power down their weapons and transmit their surrender codes. You will be treated according to the galactic conventions for prisoners of war. As Zephyrian ships throughout the system began shutting down their weapon systems, Sarah allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. This victory would send shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, conqueror of 1,000 worlds, had been humbled by a human leading a clan of alien warriors. Valrak, she said to her second commander, signal our salvage teams to begin recovery operations. I have a feeling we're about to acquire some very interesting technology. Yes, War Commander. And the prisoners? House them comfortably and treat them with respect. They fought bravely even if they fought poorly. Besides, Sarah smiled with the expression her enemies were learning to fear. We're going to need them to carry a message back to their empire about the new balance of power in this sector. 1 year after the defeat of the Zephyrian Third Fleet, the galaxy had transformed in ways that no one could have predicted. The Bloodtide clan, once considered a minor regional power, now controlled the most profitable shipping routes in 3 sectors. What had begun as a desperate fight for survival had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history. Sarah stood in the observation deck of her new flagship, the hybrid vessel that combined the best of human engineering principles with Korthak durability and Zephyrian technology. Through the massive viewports, she could see the bustling traffic around Station Unity, the massive space platform that had become the new capital of what people were calling the Blood-Tide Confederation. The Galactic Federation has formally requested a trade alliance, Valrak reported, approaching with the day's diplomatic briefings. They're offering most favored nation status in exchange for exclusive shipping contracts through our territory. Sarah accepted the datapad and scrolled through the offer. Even a year ago, the idea of the Federation negotiating as equals with a former Korthak clan would have been laughable. Now it was simply good business. What about the Zephyrian response? Emperor Zethrak has agreed to the reparations package, 200 billion credits over 10 years, plus technology transfer agreements for their advanced sensor systems. In exchange, we return their captured ships and release the remaining prisoners. And Admiral Korvash? Valrak's mandibles clicked with what Sarah had learned was amusement. He has requested permission to join our military staff as an advisor. Apparently his defeat at our hands has made him something of a pariah in Zephyrian military circles, but his experience would be valuable to us. Sarah considered this unexpected development. Korvash was unquestionably one of the finest tactical minds in the Empire. Even if his conventional thinking had been his downfall, having him analyze their strategies from an enemy perspective could be invaluable. Approved, but he starts at junior advisor level. He'll have to prove himself before gaining any real authority. Understood. There is one more matter that requires your attention. The human delegation from Earth has arrived for the formal ceremony. Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Today marked the official establishment of the Blood-Tide Confederation as a sovereign galactic power, with full recognition from all major governments. More importantly for her personally, it would be the first time she had seen other humans since the mining colony incident that had started this entire adventure. The delegation ceremony took place in the Great Hall of Station Unity, a massive chamber that could accommodate representatives from dozens of different species. Sarah wore her formal War Commander regalia, the alien armor now feeling as natural as her old human uniform once had. The heart of the clan pulsed gently at her throat, its crystalline structure now as much a part of her identity as her own heartbeat. Distinguished beings, she began, addressing the assembled crowd in the universal trade language that had become standard for diplomatic functions. Today we celebrate not just the establishment of a new government, but the birth of a new model for interspecies cooperation. The crowd included representatives from over 30 different civilizations, many of whom had initially come as enemies but were now eager trading partners. The Talroth ambassador sat next to the Zilithian trade representative, former adversaries now united by the profit opportunities that the Confederation provided. The Blood-Tide Confederation operates on a simple principle, Sarah continued, strength through mutual benefit. We offer our military expertise and protection to those who deal with us fairly, and we punish those who threaten our partners. This has created unprecedented prosperity throughout our sphere of influence. She gestured to the holographic displays showing economic data that made even the Federation representatives look impressed. In just 1 year, trade volume through Confederation space had increased by over 300%. Piracy had been virtually eliminated. Territorial disputes that had simmered for decades had been resolved through mediation rather than warfare. But our greatest achievement, Sarah said, her eyes finding the human delegation in the crowd, has been proving that cooperation between species can create outcomes that pure conquest never could. We are stronger together than any of us could be alone. After the ceremony, Sarah met privately with Ambassador Martinez, the senior representative from Earth's colonial administration. The middle-aged diplomat looked distinctly uncomfortable in the alien environment, despite the best efforts of his security detail to appear professional. Captain Chen, he began formally, the colonial administration has authorized me to extend an offer for your return to human space. Your achievements here have been noted, but Earth believes your talents would be better utilized in service to humanity. Sarah almost laughed. Ambassador, with respect, I think you may not fully understand my current situation. The Blood-Tide Confederation has an annual economic output larger than the entire human colonial network. My talents are being utilized just fine. You're still human, Captain. Don't you feel any loyalty to your own species? I feel tremendous loyalty to humanity, Sarah replied calmly. That's why I'm not coming back. The Confederation provides trade opportunities, military protection, and technology transfer agreements that benefit every human colony in this sector. I can do more for our species from here than I ever could from Earth. Martinez clearly hadn't expected this response. The colonial administration is concerned about the implications of a human leading an alien military force. It sets precedents that could be problematic. You mean it threatens the assumption that humans are destined to be a minor species in galactic politics? Sarah's tone remained pleasant, but there was steel underneath. Ambassador, in the past year I've negotiated treaties with civilizations that have ignored humanity for centuries. I've built economic partnerships that have increased human prosperity by orders of magnitude. I've proven that we can compete with species that have been spacefaring for millennia by abandoning human values and adopting alien customs. Sarah gestured around the luxurious meeting room, with its mix of human comfort and alien functionality. I haven't abandoned anything. I've synthesized the best elements of multiple cultures to create something new. The Confederation operates on principles that any human would recognize: fair trade, mutual defense, and respect for those who earn it. And the military conquest? The battles in blood were necessary to establish our credibility in a galaxy where strength is the only universal language. But notice that every war we've fought has been defensive or in response to aggression. We've never initiated conflict for its own sake. Martinez was quiet for several minutes, clearly struggling with concepts that didn't fit into his conventional understanding of human-alien relations. Finally, he asked, "What do you want from Earth?" Partnership, not submission. The Confederation could use human innovation and adaptability, just as humanity could benefit from our resources and protection. But it has to be a relationship between equals, not a colonial administration giving orders to a wayward citizen. I'll have to report this conversation to my superiors. Please do. And, Ambassador, make sure they understand that this offer won't remain open indefinitely. The Confederation is growing rapidly, and our need for Earth's cooperation decreases with every new alliance we form. Later that evening, Sarah stood once again in her observation deck, watching the lights of hundreds of ships moving through the traffic patterns around Station Unity. Each one represented trade, diplomacy, or cooperation between species that had been enemies just months before. Valrak joined her at the viewport, his massive frame somehow comforting in its familiarity. The human delegation seemed unsettled by the ceremony. They're having trouble accepting that humanity doesn't have to be a minor player in galactic politics. For too long, we've accepted that other species are simply more advanced, more powerful, more sophisticated. But that was never true. We were just thinking too small. And now? Sarah smiled, her reflection in the viewport showing a figure that was recognizably human but unmistakably changed by her experiences. The heart of the clan pulsed gently at her throat. Its alien wisdom now as much a part of her as her human memories. Now we think as big as the galaxy itself. The Blood-Tide Confederation isn't just another government, Valrak. It's proof that any species can rise to greatness if they're willing to adapt, learn, and fight for what they believe in. Outside the viewport, the stars beckoned with infinite possibilities. Sarah had started this journey as a mining colony administrator, trying to save 300 lives. She had become something unprecedented, a human who commanded respect from civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. But more importantly, she had opened a door for her entire species to walk through. The blood pact with an alien warrior had indeed led to unimaginable rewards. But the greatest reward was the knowledge that humanity's story in the galaxy was just beginning. And with the right combination of courage, wisdom, and determination, there were no limits to how far that story could go. "Come on," Sarah said to Valrak, turning away from the viewport. "We have a confederation to run, and tomorrow the Andromedan drag a delegation to Gaia.